and this isn't a commercial presentation though, but if only for my own curiosity, how do you guys use the situation that you've described, the regulatory complexity, the upcoming stress tests, the generally better but still a long way to improve situation across Western European banks to make your returns?
Big question.
You didn't prepare that one?
No.
No.
No, I mean, there are, just to give a brief outline on that, there are really two ways. Of course, there's something which is quite easy. Everybody sees that there's a recovery on European banks today. So there is clearly a spread tightening phase on the, and especially on the subordinated spectrum. What is much more interesting is how do you take advantage of this mess, between brackets, which can be a credit mess, and also how do you take advantage of the regulatory discrepancy. And this is really a fantastic area to play today. The implementation of Basel III through the CRD4, which is the European directive, sets a grandfathering period under which you will have many changes for the subordinated debt holders. And so to cut a long story short, there are really two ways to make money in this environment. First, you can take advantage of all the situation where clarification has not been achieved yet.
Okay.
So, and this is really the regulatory treatment, of Tier 1 securities in the grandfathering period. So, for example, Tier 1 securities with a step up and a call every quarter will be completely phased out of the regulatory capital of bank. This was clearly a topic where we made money in the summer. At that time, the EBA had not clarified whether those features, those securities with those features, will fall into the Tier 2 bucket or will completely be phased out from the regulatory capital of bank. And for some bank, this was of utmost importance, especially Deutsche Bank, for example, was quite, I would say, a weak habit of calling bonds, especially in 2008. Had a bond with a very low coupon, so the market was quite uncertain about the future of this bond. It was very clear that this bond would be completely phased out of the regulatory capital of bank. If you, like we do, read the work in progress of the regulators, and what we did that we simply piled a position on this bond, and when the EBA released the treatment confirming that these typical bonds would be phased out, the bond rocketed from 80 to 94.
Maybe the best way to answer is to explain how we do the calculation, because basically there are two pillars. The first one is understanding the regulation, which is not the easiest part actually, because you have to really take into account the different characteristics of the bonds. And David mentioned the case of Deutsche Bank, but there are many others for which the market does not really understand exactly what's the exact grandfathering treatment. You know, the EBA's website has dozens of questions outstanding relating to grandfathering only. Okay? There are maybe 450 questions in total, and a few dozens on grandfatherings. And of course, on each of these, we have a very specific view, and we believe what the answer will be. So first thing is really to understand the regulation. And then, unfortunately, you have to do a lot of work, because you have to step in the shoes of every bank and model the entire balance sheet of subordinated debt. Because there are links between each of these, because the grandfathering rules are the limits. I mean, the 10% decrease every year is not on a bond-by-bond basis. It's calculated for the entire stock of the bonds. So you have to put all the bonds in a model and step in the shoes of the finance director of the bank and decide which bonds you would redeem first, basically to optimize your cost of equity. So it's a bit painful, it's a bit annoying, but it's absolutely necessary. And what is very important is that it gives you a stress scenario, in the sense that many banks will actually tend to be nice to investors, and don't fully optimize. I mean, Deutsche Bank is not the good example for that, but most banks, for example, SocGen has always called every single bond. So if you take the stress scenario and just assume that SocGen is not going to be nice, but simply is going to optimize its cost of equity, normally you're not too far away from the end result. So that's, at least that's how we do it.